Good evening, Banger Racing fans, and a very warm welcome to episode 58 of Cage Full Throttle. I'm Ed Fahey. Well, 2 weeks ago we discussed about the big racing was coming back. Racing's back. It's definitely back. We'll be talking about the last 2 weeks and looking ahead to what's coming. But before we do all that, let's meet the two brave panellists for the evening. He's back again. It's James Keane.
Hello, Ed. Hello to everyone listening. Yeah, the last 2 weeks have taken their toll on my ginger skin, but it's brilliant to be back trackside and carrying on. And yeah, what a jam-packed show we've got tonight. We've got lots coming up, lots to talk about. Yeah, it's great to be here. Hello to you and hello to everyone else listening.
And he's also back. It's Jordan Hollins.
Hello, Ed. Hello, everyone else. And yeah, as James said, packed show tonight. Got lots to catch up on from the last 2 weeks. Firstly, James, what is it like to have ginger skin?
Well, it's interesting when you can't tell where your overalls finish and your skin starts when you walk off at the end of the meeting. But many bottles of water later, made it through the week. So yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult.
Or you'd be like me, Jordan. You'd be half a ginger, you know?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Possibly. No, definitely. Just the way it is. It's genetics, Jordan. You know, you've the Essex accent, we've ginger skin, so it balances out, you know?
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, so well, I've only got half Irish genes there. It's what we get for having Irish genes.
This is it. I mean, you know, you're never going to get the perfect balance, are you?
No. There's always one curveball that needs to be thrown into the mix.
That's it. Anyway, we've plenty to look forward to, plenty to preview, and plenty to review as well. But let's see, we'll just continue what we were doing last time. We were talking about supporting Wheelspin magazine. It's now pretty much the only quarter-mile oval racing magazine left, with the exception of Stock Car magazine, which for the brisker scene. Again, you know, it's not getting the support it needs. It is the only magazine left. It's fair enough, it doesn't always cover bangers, but, you know, any other formulas it will cover too. And there's also some interesting reading, particularly the interviews and that. So I know, Jordan, you've been contributing to it a lot, you know, keeping the fight going.
Yeah, definitely. We're keeping the fight going. The last issue has actually sold out as well, when I think we've finally got through to drivers and pit crews and officials. And yeah, the last issue selling out is a massive bonus for us. So yeah, just keep on supporting us, and we'll continue providing you with content to read.
That's good, and that's what we want, really. Just very quickly look ahead. Probably the two biggest meetings coming this weekend. Anyway, big, massive news, really. It's the Banger World Series going to Hednesford. Probably, you know, Hednesford outside, track miles with snow and love. It was actually the first time I went to racing in the UK. That's where it was. Never seen anything as fast in my life, which is a bit of an eye-opener. But yeah, James, looking forward to that.
So yeah, you threw a bit of a curveball. To be there, because I thought we were going to the reviews first. But yeah, no, the Banger World Series returned to Hednesford. Obviously, Hednesford these days, because of the size and the speed of the track, with national banger meetings, doesn't maybe have as many as it has in previous years. But the Banger World Series took a bit of a break from there last year. Obviously, everything took a bit of a break last year. But this year it's returning, and in some style. Over 100 bangers pretty much booked in, including most of the big names. You've got DWA there, you've got Box there, the reigning world champion Sid Madgwick, you've got Jamie Pole, some of the Barton boys, Ricky Finney. The who's who of the Banger World Series. Carnival are there, the exception of Jack Avery, who won't be there, who is already qualified, remember. But it really does promise to be a really good event, especially at Hednesford. Bangers at Hednesford are great, not only for the fact that it's a great racing track, it's a great spectating track, and to see so many bangers booked in there. It's a difficult track for bangers as well, remember, because of course compared to a lot of tracks, it doesn't have the infield pull-off area. A lot does, so you're guaranteed a track blockage, much in the same way we saw at Northampton. And if it carries on from where Northampton left off, it'll be fantastic. I mean, I wonder who's going to qualify. I'd say it's unpredictable, but then obviously Jack Overy qualified from the first one, which probably would have been a lot of people's favourite to qualify from that. So we'll see who qualifies, see who gets their place on the grid for October. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people will be excited to be back at Hednesford for that.
Absolutely. And the day before, I might get a few leftovers. The Ringwood All-Granada meeting now, I was at the first one 5 years ago, was one of the best meetings I've seen, really, to be honest. It kind of brought me right back to my days, as I say too often on here. But we're just looking at the booking in list for this Saturday, well over 150 cars booked in. The main difference is You're only a Pinto or a V6. You're not allowed to put any of the new, more modern engines in. No Z-Tex, no Duratex. It should be good. Obviously, unfortunately, a lot of drivers have to book out due to COVID and a few other circumstances. But other things as well, I don't know. I think some of it's going to be good and some of it's going to be bad because they're saying, the gates are open from 9 o'clock in the morning, open admission, and the meeting doesn't start till 6. Personally, I don't think I really want to be at a track 8 hours before it starts. Jordan, would you agree with me?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you, and I think that has put some people off. I mean, no disrespect to Ringwood, it's a fantastic track, especially for the national bangers, but that has really put me off going. I think if there was some sort of advanced ticket scenario like other tracks have been doing since COVID, then yeah, I think we'd pretty much be there, or I'd pretty much be less. Yeah, definitely put me off, I'd say. Yeah,
I mean, most of the tracks have been able to do pre-booking as well. I'm not sure what the local council in that area have said, but I mean, any other track can do pre-booking, so why can't they? The thing is as well, there's nothing worse than making a journey and then be told, sorry, we're full. So, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but it should be a good meeting. It will be enjoyable. I'm sure online it will be glowing red hot by Saturday evening and all through Sunday. But no, it should be a good meeting, and we wish them well. But we'll conclude the news tonight with some very sad news, very unfortunate news. Chris Medler, who was the 1975 and 1976 Bangor Racing World Champion, better known on Oval Chat as Jagman Chris, he unfortunately died last month, and it only became news in the last couple of days that he died and had been subsequently buried. But he was a good guy for the stories. Like some of the stories he tell, particularly from either racing or even just the stories that surround the racing and other stuff as well. Like he would still give information how to set up a Jag properly. Like the video we put up on the Caged Facebook page to commemorate him was from World of Sport in the mid-70s. It was an all-Jag race at Wimbledon on the shale. It was even before Wimbledon went tarmac, it was shale. And he starts right at the back of a Mark II Jag and pretty much pulls off proper full contact win to win. Now back then, Bangor Racing really was push and shove. There wasn't even any roll cages. There was no water tanks. There was no door place for starters. So yeah, it was interesting how he did it. But some of the stories he told are very good. But a short career, with a very fruitful career, and our condolences go to all his family and friends. I mean, you'll just never see the likes of him again, unfortunately. Is one to add to that, or?
No, just completely in agreement with you, Red. It's such a sad loss to the community, and everyone at Cage. Thoughts are with the family, the friends, and everyone else who knew Chris as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to echo that as well, like someone I didn't know personally, but the name is instantly recognisable both through his posting from Oval Chat and elsewhere, and you can see straight away how much condolences came straight in, and for someone who's so part of the community as well, has obviously felt all the way through. So I'd just like to echo everything you've said, Ed, and everything Jordan said, and again, for everyone else at Caged, massive condolences to friends, family, and to everyone who's going to miss someone who's done so much for the community as a whole.
That's it. I mean, tuning Jag engines is still very much a dark art. He knew it very well, so there's one less person to turn on, unfortunately. But we'll just be talking very quickly about a few of the meetings that we've been to in the last 2 weeks, and a few more things to discuss after that. But we'll start off with James. You went to Eastbourne Vans, which is usually one of the highlights of the season. It was good to see it back again. How'd you get on?
Yeah, absolutely. It's moved from its traditional spot. It's usually the first bank holiday weekend of the year at Eastbourne. Obviously, this year things had to be moved around a bit, so it's in the later spot, which did mean it clashed with a few other big van meetings, which we'll talk about shortly. But again, there's maybe a few less vans than previously booked in, but it again was shown its absolute quality throughout. In the first race, the smaller vans in inverted commas went out and saw a huge rollover from Cecil pretty much straight away, which got him the entertainer for that race, and the race was won by Jack Anscombe. I would say tame, but it was maybe tamed by previous van banger heats, but it wasn't tame at all. The second heat showed some great racing again. Jordan Cumming, who come all the way from Mildenhall a couple of days before in the same van, had won the race and then immediately got himself blown up and done his steering, so couldn't come back out again. The first all-comers was a bit of carnage. Chimp in 885 almost in some big American camper van made out of wood. Not quite sure exactly what it was. I'm sure some people listening do. Disintegrated to the point where all you could see was the driver's cage around the flatbed, which was left of the van. But obviously, you can imagine the reaction from the spectators when he's sitting there and his bits of his panels are all over the place, and he's still trying to back it out on people when he's just sitting in a roll cage. The final and the DD were merged into one due to time restrictions, and that was because the clear up obviously takes quite a long time with vans, and we had a few lengthy stoppages in the historic stock cars. All drivers okay eventually, but there were some stoppages. But the final and DD, Chimp came back out, put himself all over the track. So did Mark Almeida. So did quite a lot of the other drivers, and while we might have only effectively got 2 heats and all comers in a final, as opposed to the extra DD that was originally advertised, it showed again how good these national bangers are down at Arlington. That corner going into turn 3 is one of the tightest corners there is in oval racing, and when you've got a big van blocking it, you're always certain of some action, and it didn't disappoint. So thank you to all the drivers that turned up. Like I said, it was numbers maybe slightly down, but numbers were more than enough to make that track look like absolute carnage.
Well, that's good. I mean, obviously catching up on the highlights there on Speedworth TV, very interesting, very, very entertaining. But Van Bangers is about the entertainment side of racing. It's not really about the serious side. But we'll continue on the entertainment theme, rather. We spoke to Keith Reynolds there a few weeks back as part of our Motorsport Archie programme, but he again gave his good name of 3 litre to the undercracker at Aldershot. I know both these are at this. This is basically the smaller version of his Unlimited Tongue Classic, wasn't it? Yeah,
it definitely was, Ed. And it's a meeting that's been run, I think, for the last 3 years. I'm sure someone will correct that if I'm wrong. But small cars, so I think it's a 2 litre engine limit for rear-wheel drive, and then I think 1400cc limit for front-wheel drive cars. They're split for the first 2 half-car heats, which are basically back to basic rules, and then from then on they're all mixed together, and then the hits start coming in. Basically national banger hits, but with less of the tuned engines and the build. And yet again, it served up some absolutely cracking action. The wrecking training, the third race of the day, Heat 3, was just incredible. 7-11, Ollie Banks went into 3-8. Mike Perry's Sierra Estate, Boogie in T52, he was involved in his little Nissan Sunny. Obviously, you had the Reynolds boys in. I'm sure many of you have seen 260 Keefe's old Riley that he had. He jacked up his son 360 Jack with a great hit. But the action just come non-stop from that point. And again, the grand final saw another big wrecking train, more cars piling in. Danny Sutton was involved. 548 Alex Sutton was also involved. And yeah, like I said, absolutely awesome. And then it rounded off with a great DD as well, which was actually won by the Damage Inc. man in 548 as well. So I'm thoroughly looking forward to the Unlimited Tongue Classic, which I believe is towards the end of October. But
that's right.
James, you got anything to add?
Yeah, so the Tongue Classic, just to add, is usually the last meeting before the gala night, so it'll be towards the end of October. Secondly, that jacking train was amazing, especially the what I believe the Allegro 306 Mark Doherty get absolutely squashed from behind by Mike Parry from the Bilge Brigade. He's no stranger to having a few big crashes on that track. But when I went on track afterwards to help with the clean-up, it was meant to be my week off, but you just can't stay that side of the catch fence. When I went on track to clean up, first thing Mike did was, oh my God, did not expect it to crush like that. Speaking to Barry and Liam, who were on that corner as well, they were very much thinking we're going to have to go red here, but the driver was very clear that on his side he had enough space to carry on. So the race carried on. But that jacking train was brilliant.
Sorry, I was just going to interrupt. I actually heard Mark Parry speaking after the DD to I presume some people he knew, and he was speaking about the hit he put in on the Allegro, and he said, I actually backed off a lot just before. Just because I didn't want to go in full on steaming because I wasn't sure how rotten it was.
Yeah.
And he said it was actually the likes of Ollie Banks and so on that come in after him that actually did the damage. But, you know, fair play to Mark in the Allegro.
Yeah, Mark Salguero wasn't actually rotten. It was actually pretty clean compared to some of the stuff you see at the Undercracker. I think it's just one of those where you see old cars that crumple like that, but the drive was all fine, which is obviously what we always want to see, and felt safe enough the race to carry on. I think part of that is because the attitude of the Undercracker, and I spoke to Keithy afterwards, and that is part of what makes these races so special. In the fact it has a bit of that attitude between the drivers. I do also have a comment in, Jordan, from Liam saying he saw you trying to take a little sneaky photo of him, and I think the subtext of that was it his massive forehead that meant you couldn't get the photo in.
Yeah, my camera couldn't focus on him, but I've got a good one of you, James, which I believe I sent you the other night. So.
The other thing to forget as well we're talking about Rusty and Mr. Rusty Keith Rounds. That Riley he had, was that sponsored by Walker's Crisps or something? I saw the video of it that was the build video.
Yeah,
I think it's Joey He's literally just tapping the thing with the side of his hand. Like normally a Rusty car, you need to give it a really good shake. But he's literally just pushing
wobbling
it
all over the place.
And the whole car is literally shaking. Like talk about.
As it came out on track, I said to Billy Wood, who was standing next to me, I said to him, he's a brave man going out in that, I suppose, and he's probably the only scrutineer that would pass that car. It's lucky he was the scrutineer for today. And Billy just said to me, he knows that no one here is going to do a stupid hit on him. It's that sort of meeting. It's not. He wouldn't take that car out in any other meeting, and I think it proved that as well today. I said the same to Mike, and he says these are the only sorts of national bangers he would race, because they are technically national bangers, but they're not. The heat's a nudge and spin, and it's one of those. And we saw it at the Tongham Classic last year when we spoke to Bro and Boogie and Matt Nutley after the races. They were saying the same. It's very much very much the attitude of the driver is the main thing about those meetings, and you could see it again. It's one of those that drivers, if they've got something a bit rotten, a bit interested, that they would need to do some national preparation on, and therefore couldn't take it out in back to basics, but they can do that and know that the spirit is back to basic. The build rules are more like national bangers, and the entertainment has always been brilliant, and it carried on again.
That's it. I mean, that's what you want. It's all like fun meetings. Keith always said racing should be fun, so he's definitely bringing the fun into it. Well, the next review is actually myself. Tully Round kicked off there on Sunday with the Unlimited Kings of Crash. It was okay with 19 cars, with enough people in the pits who didn't really like each other to make it interesting. But plenty of previews as well, so a little bit of on-oppo action. The first heat was actually started off interesting, but eventually it was Leonard Dunn who took the win. The all-comers was Stephen Bolton. There was actually a proper race between him, Mike Flaherty, and Leonard Dunn. So probably, bumper-to-bumper action. Actually a bit of scrapping going on rather than just turning all the time. But then the DD, probably the sloppiest DD I've ever seen in my life. I mean, they told in the driver's briefings, stay off the grass, do not attack on the grass, do not attack from the grass, stay off the middle road, which goes across the middle of Tully Round. It's basically an escape road. If your car's broken down, so you pull in there, you're fine attacking there, attacking on the grass, attacking off the grass. A few people got sin binned, and as far as I know, in the old terminology, there's been a few holiday vouchers dished out. So yeah, but I mean, at the same time, it didn't rain, the sun was out. I got tanned. I slapped on the factor 30. James, take the hint. But it was just good to be out there, good to have a bit of racing again, and just to get the buzz back. Because before that, the last meeting I'd been to was I've been to a rookie meeting in September, but the last time I'd seen Unlimited was actually March of 2020, so that's nearly a year and a bit away from racing, but it was just good to be back. But we'll move on again to the meeting we were helping out with in the background of the cage. Was it the Wee Man Memorial at Yarmouth, Jordan?
Yeah, it was, Ed. Obviously, the Avon Wee Man King Memorial was back on the calendar this year after a hiatus of a couple of years. Open to micro national bangers, as Wee Man would have wanted at Great Yarmouth as well. Organised by our very own Bryson Brick Walker. The meeting got some great intention at the start of the year in around February, March time, and I think we had over 90 cars at one point as well. But unfortunately, as things got back to normal, drivers were suddenly choosing to race either closer to home or elsewhere, which is obviously completely understandable and fine. And obviously people have other commitments as well. You know, a banger driver's life doesn't always revolve around banger racing. Meant we had around 40 cars on the day, which is still a fantastic achievement, and it certainly didn't disappoint. 2 half-car heats started tonight with 217 Bailey Burrows nailing 29 David Maudsley to start with on turn 1. 224 Lewis Cannon rolled on the start-finish straight, and the 2 half-car heats went the way of 131 Harley McCarthy and Ryan Utting. Heat 3 was open to all available cars and raised about 30, but the biggest stars of the show were the Damage Inc. boys, so both Ryan Utting and Alex, as well as 247 Bro and the Joker pairing of Adam and Sheen Roll. They were involved in a wrecking train on turn 4, which bent some of their cars, but they all managed to get back out for the final, with probably the biggest hit being courtesy of 247 Bro yet again, who absolutely nailed 145 Liz Dickin on turn 1, destroying her Nissan Micra in a wrecking train that also involved 157 and 247 John Bailey as well. And with the super stocks causing a lot of mayhem in their dash for cash and also throughout the night as well, such was their brilliant booking list for them. The DD was at the end of the night and raised a decent field considering the big gap between the final and the DD. I think there was about 15 or 16 cars out for that. All the action happened by the pit gate on turn 2 with Damage Inc. once again putting on a show. I believe the DD went the way of one of the Uttings yet again. And it was just a really good night. You know, the Super Stocks were on top form, like I just said, and the National Hot Rods were back in action as well with their latest world qualifying man. So, yeah, well done to all drivers. Well done to Bryson for organising it as well. And I think there was also some entertainers' prizes as well, courtesy of both myself, Bryson, and our friends at Northern Bangers as well. And I believe the winners were 866 Gary Knott, who won the best entertainer in the final. 29 David Maudsley won the hardest trier of the meeting. And I believe it was 548 Alex Sutton who won the best entertainer of the meeting as well. So, yeah, fantastic effort by all drivers, and I certainly hope it's on the calendar again next year because it deserves to be, as we remember a special individual from our community.
Absolutely, and a huge shout as well, obviously, to Bryson, one of our team members. This meeting means a lot to. He puts a lot of effort into this, and you mentioned the intention list. Some things can't be helped, of course. As the fixture list started to be put together, a lot of drivers who would have intended to have been at this meeting, other fixtures came up that they felt also committed to. So some of these things can't be helped, but the drivers that it looks like there was a great turnout and a great bit of entertainment from the drivers that were there, and again, congratulations to everyone involved with the meeting, because memorial meetings are always going to be special for obvious reasons, and it's great when all that hard work and effort seems to pay off like it did.
This is it. I mean, you need to be dedicated these days to race bangers. It's not like it used to be. But the final meeting review is based at Dave and Sandy Memorial Meeting, which was down in dig up the old script. So it was in Mullicott, right down the southwest of the country. And this was a charity meeting, again a fun meeting, but it got a few of the more worthy drivers in banger racing did actually turn up. They made the spin down. Obviously, the bank holiday weekend helped. But a couple of claims to fame for that one. Roscoe 474, he of racing very old and very unusual cars. He actually won a race in a used London Plat 4R. He had at Stan Mudd's meeting a couple of years ago. Jack Starr brought the DeSoto that he had at Stanley the week before last. And a few other bits and pieces, but it was a case of crash on Sunday, repair, race again on Monday, because they did an awful lot of overnight racing as well. But the impression seemed to go was it was a good meeting, it was an enjoyable meeting, and it was for a good cause too. I mean, with no complaints. Again, we talk about racing being fun. That's what you want, a bit of fun racing. But if you move on to more of the discussion side of things, and a fairly controversial bit of news, as it always seems to be when this rears its ugly head from time to time. Basically, you're not allowed, certain people, or is it a case of everyone really, is not allowed to film at Speedworth meetings anymore. Now, we do have a reasonable reason for this. A lot of people are saying, oh yeah, it's just the guy who owns Speedworth being a so-and-so, but it's not really here, is it, James?
Yeah, I mean, of course I do have to be... I have to declare straight away, obviously, that I do volunteer work with Speedworth, so of course my loyalties will lie that way. But what a lot of people don't realise is that Speedworth TV is a separate entity to Speedworth, and they have invested a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of equipment, and a lot of people who are dedicated to making this streaming service work have got the exclusive rights to be able to to be able to put this service on, and it's not a case of trying to control everything. It's a case of when you've got a service like that, then of course what comes off the back of that is that service needs to be able to have its time to be able to do what it needs to do. Now, in the past week, I think it's probably about 10 meetings in the last 10 days have gone up within about 2 days of them actually happening, which is an amazing turnaround for a live service like that. And highlight videos. I think the problem was never with highlight videos. The problem were with highlight videos that would take away the need to watch the full meeting within 2 days. Because if you're going to try and put up a meeting with DVDs, it used to be maybe you'd buy them at the next meeting you went to, or you'd order them. But when you're trying to put on a service where you can watch them as close to them actually happening as possible, then you need to you can't have things instantly taking away from the commercial viability of that. I know it sounds really boring and really business-like, but that's just the way it is. And obviously Speedworth TV isn't a thing that is just for bangers. It follows all types of racing, all formulas across all the tracks and the associated tracks. Some of the responses were a bit disappointing from my point of view, because a lot of them jumped immediately on a bandwagon that was easy to jump on and easy to get reactions to, that ignored some of those facts. I personally love Speedworth TV. It's a great service, and I could see it from the other side. I think maybe you could say that maybe if that fact was maybe communicated, people might understand it a bit more. But I think also a lot of people didn't want to understand it. Maybe they wanted to jump straight onto the bandwagon of it's one person or one promotion trying to control all feedback. And yeah, that's the way I look at it. And I can understand why people think that. I can understand why people think it's a great, from the other point of view, it's a really good way to promote the sport and get other people down there, and gets those highlights to more people that might want to go to track. But with the amount of time, effort and meetings covered by Speedworth TV, the separate entity, the separate broadcasting company that has acquired these rights to be able to do it, then Speedworth have to respect and protect that fact.
Yeah, of course they do. I mean, the thing is as well, you wouldn't go to a big football match and stand there with a camera videoing away. There's TV channels for that. I mean, I have Speedworth TV myself. You get emails several times a week now, the races back, highlights from here, highlights from there, racing. Like, all I need now is time. I just don't have the time to watch it anymore after. But no, I mean, the thing is as well, sorry, Jordan, you're...
No, I was going to say, I think the thing is that, those are all excellent points by James and Spurs. He's hit the nail on the head, but I think sometimes when Speedworth TV don't cover a meeting, I don't think, if I get this right, I'm sure Dom will correct me on the group chat, or if he's listening in, but I don't think they're covering the Hednesford BWS this weekend. So from that point of view, how is anyone going to be able to watch highlights of a meeting? And from that side of things, I think it is a shame, personally, that you are going to get that taken away from some people that may not be able to afford Speedworth TV, but which, don't get me wrong, is fantastic value for money at £12 a month. As you and Ed have said, or as you guys have said, for the 4 or 5 meetings a week sometimes. So obviously you round that up over the course of 3 or 4 weeks in a month. That's a hell of a lot of meetings for your money. but for me, it is slightly disappointing. I think what would have been nice is if Speedref TV could have said to, the amateur videographers, we haven't got a problem with you filming, but you need to send us through your edited video first, and then we have the rights to use any clips we want in the meeting, and we can give you credit. Because I know that with the likes of Impact Videos, DT, they use clips from amateur videographers all the time from hits that they haven't missed. Because, I've been critical of Speedref TV before, saying that sometimes they don't capture the hits as well as maybe the amateur videographers do. So I think from that point of view, they can use it to their advantage and create what is already a brilliant product into an even better one and make it absolutely sublime. So, for me, I don't think it should be something that should just be swept under the carpet and completely ignored. Yeah. I would like to see a little bit more communication and a little bit more working together from both parties, to be honest.
Sorry, George, just on one point there. I'm not 100% on this and I'm willing to be corrected, but I do think there is, from in-car racetracks, a partnership with DH, so it's not that it won't end up on Speedref TV, it just won't be up as quickly in respect to Hednesford this weekend.
Okay, that's fair enough. No, it was only from a quick message Dom sent literally an hour before we went on air. So
I think that's with that. But like you said, I don't think the problem was ever highlights as such, or individual clips of things. It was a case of an edited down version could be 30 minutes long, posted up, and would technically be a highlights video, but a highlights video in the same way as if I'd managed to film most of the action for a football match and got it up before match of the day. I'm sure they would be upset about that. If I managed to get the highlights down to 30 minutes, it wasn't a case of, you filmed this hit or you've got 5 minutes of stuff. It's the fact that there were 20-30 minute long videos going up.
This is it. I mean, you'd rather have the bite-sized chunks, like say the piece they might show on the news is literally 10 seconds. Say the highlights of the Grand Prix literally show whoever doing 3 seconds driving the car. That's it. That's enough for it. You'd rather see, the full 2 hour 30 minutes version or the edited 1 hour highlights. But I think it's just something that you're going to see again and again. It's a case of you want something, but you need to give something back in return. So people are always saying, would it be great to see the race live? Would it be great to see the race streamed live? We have this now, and people are still thinking that it's too expensive and all that. But
I think
I think it is worth bearing in mind that since the streaming rules have been brought in, I think a lot of people have sort of understood that, which is great to see. And I'm not sure, I don't know if you guys have, but I haven't seen any streaming from the meetings we have had this year. I've seen obviously highlights videos.
I've seen a few people try, but then get told they're not allowed.
Obviously, we all don't like streaming, especially because it takes it away from the action and actually being there. But I do think there is a difference between highlights videos and streaming. But I mean, that's just me personally. But like I said, hopefully both parties can rectify their differences and move forward together.
I think an important thing as well to mention is that obviously we're here as a banger podcast, but all of us have various interests in other formulas. Myself and you, Jordan, love other formulas definitely as much as bangers. I know Ed, like some other formulas, doesn't like the others quite so much, which is fair enough. But you got to remember that you sort of set this service up for your promotion, the sport as a whole, and you can't have different rules for banger videos being posted as others. And bangers probably is the hardest thing to film from one hard camera. Especially as well as the hard camera is the one used by the steward to review, so it has to be on the leading pack as much as anything, because that's where decisions have to be made.
But then again, I think sort of goes on to my point I made previously, was if you had the camera in race control following the action, then after the race you could show highlights from, say for instance, an amateur videographer or another camera somewhere else, and sort of showing the clips. I mean, It's something I haven't done myself, but it wouldn't be that hard. I don't think.
I mean, I know Speedway TV where they can do put GoPros on the wall to capture as much as possible from just basically static cameras on the action zones. But again, it comes down to if you want the video 2 days after the meeting, that's obviously a lot more editing to go into it. Is also, I mean, it's a difficult one, but I myself was delighted when a service like this came along, and you can't have a service like this and at the same time say to the technically independent company running it, we're not going to do anything about the fact that you've got exclusive rights, but we're not going to protect the fact you've got those exclusive rights.
That's it. I mean, it's not as if it's one guy with a camcorder. It's more or less a broadcast operation like you'd see going out live on Sky Sports or any of the sports. I mean, if you go to watch the British Touring Cars, you see the big camera crew or 2 or 3 walking around. I mean, it's the same. They might only have 2 camera crews instead of 3, but, they have them. They have to go out the microphone, they have everything, particularly the World Finals. They really go flat out. I mean, it is broadcast standard as well. It's the case of, the sport is... the sport is progressing. Some people don't like it. Some people embrace it. Some people don't. So I think it's ultimately like a lot of things. You can't keep everybody happy. So let's keep the majority of the people happy, and that's what you can do. But it's more interesting. Sorry, Jordan, go on.
No, I was going to say that's an interesting point. I mean, I can see why you've said it's moving the sport on, but I also do feel like it can sometimes work the other way, and it takes it away from some people as well. But yeah, like you say, you're always going to disappoint some people, but you have to go with the majority. And from what I've seen so far, it's maybe a 65 whatever else split. But we'll see how it develops over the coming weeks and keep you updated, I guess.
I think so too. See where we're not sponsored by Speedway TV, but we do enjoy the service that it provides. And I mean, like I said, it is a big thing, and there's nothing better than actually. You don't need to get up off your sofa to take the DVD that's being dropped in the post. The stuff's usually put in 48 hours too. So, I mean, that's pretty good going. I mean, given the amount of work that it takes to edit a video, like I've edited enough photographs down the years, I put videos together. It's not easy. It's not just a case of download from camera onto computer and record and like that. It's usually takes an awful lot of work. You have to sift through hours of footage in some cases, or might be a case if you haven't got what you want, you have to make do. But like I said, we'll monitor the situation, but I think just you're always going to get people who are unhappy. So what can you do? Keep everybody else happy. That's the main thing. But we'll move on to the next one. A fairly unknown race. What's it called, James? Is it Humnaby? Is that the name? Am I pronouncing that right?
Well, given that no one else in the world pronounces Hednesford correctly, I think that's as close as we're going to get. Yeah, Humnaby.
Yeah, basically they're not. They've run bangers before. Most of it was one of the video pages to promotion, but they've after a few unsavoury incidents at the weekend, they've just turned around and said we're not running bangers anymore. Now I know the old adage about banger racing, especially being in school. Sometimes you do things to annoy the school teacher or the race director or the marshals, but I mean at the end of the day, they've given up their time as well as you are to go racing. I mean, obviously it's there's not much information going around really, but they've just turned around and said we're not running bangers anymore, full stop. So, and they've we're right in saying they've said that a few people involved with racing were the cause of the issues rather than the races themselves, like the surrounding people.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation and a lot of people commenting without the information, and we don't have any more information than anyone else. What we do know is the statement that went out from the guy that runs their bangers up there. It said that basically after an incident that happened, he doesn't feel like he wants to carry on doing it anymore. Now, you can stop that at that statement there. If there has been someone who has caused an incident that stops someone who gives their time to run a formula at a track, feels like he no longer wants to do it and is that upset, then there's a problem. There is an absolute problem straight away. And if it can be resolved, I don't know. If it was caused by one group of people, I don't know. But at the same time, the fact is, given the restrictions and the spectator group at this specific independent track, it is likely that it's someone to do with a racer or a race team, and that means that something is completely out of order here. And if it can be resolved, it can be resolved. I don't know, but it's a huge thing that when we talk about independent tracks and we talk about the amount of effort and time that go into them from people who's not their day job, they're basically doing this out of a club spirit, effectively. And you see things like this happen, all you can think is, this is probably one of the biggest, maybe not this specific incident, but this sort of thing is one of the biggest things that will stop the club aspect or the independent tracks thing from being able to continue. And it's, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about the specific incident because I don't know enough details. What I do know is I have seen officials be abused. I have been an official that has been abused, and I know the feeling of thinking, I don't want nothing to do with this sport again after a meeting, through no one else's action other than a specific one or two people that have caused you to feel like that. And if that, I mean, it's Volunteers Week as well, isn't it? So, I mean, the irony of it happening in the middle of Motorsports Volunteers Week is something else. I mean, I hope that bangers carry on up there. I mean, we don't cover those northern tracks as much as maybe we should. That's because of the location where most of us are. But all I can say is that I hope it's a track that, I mean, I think James Dillon, Mr. Grumpy, said it was a track he was hoping to go to in the near future, and now he won't be able to. So I just really hope that the actions of a few haven't spoilt it for many.
Well, this is it. I mean, it's always the case. I mean, I've seen similar instances over here when just the promoters trying to say, you know what, no more bangers. You know, you've pushed the patience of a few people too much, or you've tried to take over, or whatever. But obviously, we weren't there at all, so we can't discuss it in detail. Anyone who sends us in details, we're not really going to go on that either. We're going to wait for a statement from the promoter, which we're not going to get. So I think we'll just leave that where it is.
That's just going to keep it as general as possible. The fact is that what we do know is that an official, a volunteer, has received a level of abuse he felt he wasn't able to continue in the sport, and that in itself is something we just need to say that is completely not on. And we hope we see, we're never going to, it's one of those things, probably never going to see the back of it completely, but needs to be stamped out as much as possible, because to any families that get upset because their brother, their sister, their husband has received a black flag, or because someone's taken a follow in or something like that, if you abuse the officials, all that's going to happen is that the racing will disappear. And I don't think that's what anyone wants.
No. Okay, well, we've one more news item to discuss, which we'll come back to, because it's a proper and finally. But I did realise in my haste to rush through the script, I totally missed Jordan's review of the King's Lynn World Worlds and the Trackstar season this year. So, Jordan, I know you've been chomping at the bit to get onto this one.
Yeah, no, it was just a quick roundup, really, because on the last podcast, we completely forgot the King's Lynn 2-litre War of the Worlds meeting, and it was indeed won by the Predators, with the Aftermath winning the Best Entertainers Award. And it was an absolutely, well, it looks like it was an absolutely awesome meeting. Obviously, I wasn't there and none of us were there as caged, but yeah, awesome meeting. Obviously, we've just had the Unlimited War of the Worlds as well, and again, none of us were there for that, unfortunately, but that was won by Team Black B, with Team Sauber and Filmer winning the Best Entertainers. And you had Team Extreme going at it with TMT. You had Aftermath versus Team Black with 617 Jack Obi putting in an absolutely awesome performance, as he always does. You had 101 Kieran Harmer as well, taking some big wrecks. 51 James Licorice, who I'll mention time and time again in this, also putting in a really good performance in his Jaguar. Yeah, just two absolutely great meetings for the War of the Worlds, and they were both raising money as well for a men's mental health charity, which is important to obviously note. I don't think Trackstar have released the amount raised yet, purely because I think you can still donate. So do please check out the Trackstar pages and website, or give them a message if you want any more information on that. But that was only the start of the season for them, as they've also had their annual Big Van Banger fixture, which saw 337 Ashley Garrett, the former National Banger World Champion, take 3 wins on the day. Before, I believe it was number 90, Joey Holmes, who won the DD for the Big Vans. Numbers may be slightly down on previous years, like James said with Arlington earlier on, but it still looked like a great day with a 757 Callum Gill as well taking home a rotten horse box as well, which, as you'd expect, fell all over the track in one of the earlier races. And the Siamese bangers were also really good as well. I think 51 James Licorice, again mentioning him, and 212 Jack Marriott had a great head-on with, I believe it was 28 Mac Bell over on turn number 2. Absolutely awesome hit. Literally both cars going up in the air so much you actually thought their roofs were going to touch. Sublime stuff from them. And, of course, they've also had the 2 litre Old School National Bangers and All Sunny and Almira fixture. Pretty much, I'd say, a return of the old Wimbledon London Opens, but on show. And, again, that was just a really good meeting, well subscribed by both classes. I think we had about 40 in each on the night. Fair play to 178 Kieran Bowman, 51 James Licorice, and 165 Ben Randall, who did both classes on the day. Apologies if I've missed anyone else, but those are the 3 names that I can remember. We also had the Bears versus Barton Boys with number 9 Tom Jordan putting in an awesome performance as he took on 321 Kieran Fry and 43 Luke Maynard. And it was also really good to see the Mad Hatter back out 390 Gibbo David Gibson. I think it is just going to be a one-off or an odd appearance out, but he got in the thick of the action as you'd come to expect. So, yeah, it's been a great start to the season at the Adrian Flux Arena, and as you'd obviously come to expect with Trackstar, they've already piling on the fixtures for the rest of the season as well. I think they've got a micro and 2 litre National Banger fixture coming up. That already has over 100 cars booked in for that. I think that's taken place in just over a week's time after this Saturday's fixture, which, although it isn't bangers, looks to be absolutely fantastic with the 1300cc stock cars and 2 litre National Saloon stock cars fighting it out for their British Championships. 81 1300s booked in for that currently. So, yeah, it's going to be a good season at Kingsland this year, I think, and it's good to see that they've got off to a strong start.
Certainly have. It's always a good track, good well-run track as well. I'm sure if you could learn from the way Kingsland do things, and Trackstar in particular, when they've been doing it for a long time, they're one of the more longer established promoters. But the final news item of this evening, part of the Bill Morris Trophy at Hednesford Racing on the 27th of June, you always get a few of the old boys out, and the old boys racing their old cars, and Jags in particular. But there's one Jaguar that's been raced. Now, they have been raced before, but not for a long time, even before I was born, which was a long time ago. We're talking back to the late 70s. The car that's been raced is a E-Type Jaguar 2+2 Coupe. Now, I know aficionados of classic cars are up in arms over this. They're, oh my God, it's a Jaguar E-Type. But the guy who's racing it, you basically call him a car restoration expert. Apparently, he's restored several Jags, and basically this one has donated every single last nut and bolt to keep other Jags going. But I think it's proved to be one of the most popular pictures on the Cage Facebook page ever in terms of likes and shares. But it seems that some people aren't happy, but I mean, it's the old adage with racing, it's his car, he can do as he chooses. James, anything to say about that being a Midlands man where all the Jags were built?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think what is quite important to say about this is that even a lot of people from the classic car community that were very reactionary about this almost got put in the place by their own community before the name calling started. I think, firstly, it was that the E-Type isn't as rare as you think. A lot of people see it as one of the most beautiful cars of all time, but from a restoration point of view, it's not as rare as you think. This model isn't as sought after and was more mass produced. Thirdly, this car was provably massively beyond economic repair. And fourthly, as you said, it came from a man who has done so much restoration that he would have restored it if he could. Now, what I liked about that was the fact that I think maybe learning the lessons from the past. I said learning lessons, that sounds really harsh and judgmental. What I mean is, from things that have happened in the past, I think there are parts of the classic car community that have taken on board what happened with Plonker and said that, look, maybe it's not all that bad. And if he's racing this, there's a reason why. And from what we've seen, and I think, if anything, it's probably the transplants from this car have probably saved 2 or 3 other models in better condition and more sought after. And it was just quite funny to see. Before, I was one of those as a stock car racing boy that was ready to jump in at any one that said anything bad about people involved in our sport, but I didn't need to. They got shut down before anything else happened. And it was just quite funny because it also did make the people that just instantly think, oh, it's a banger, they must be obviously destroying something classic, we should ban them, put them all in prison, got put down by their own community before any banger boys got involved.
This is it. I mean, there have been rarer Jags race before. An example would be the XJS Adventure that Mark Watkins raced at Civil War 1. It's based in XJS Estate. I think there weren't many of those made. I think there was less than 50 of those made, and he raced one. Now, again, I remember saw photographs of that car before it was raced, and to say it was an absolute wreck was beyond it, really. But I mean, like Jamie was saying, James, this is an E-Type 2+2 coupe. It's not the most desirable E-Type of them all. Now, it's hardly a lightweight or a drop head. Personally, they're beautiful cars. Was it Enzo Ferrari described E-Type Jaguar as the most beautiful car in the world? So that's saying something. But I mean, you've over 1,000 likes on Facebook. I think the post reach on that is in the hundreds of thousands, so it's gone all over the world. It's pretty much gone as a viral post. But at the same time, it is publicity for the sport, whether you like it or not. They're always giving out that Rolls Royces are being raced. Oh, it's terrible to race a Rolls Royce, but I mean, most of the banger guys I know who raced Rolls Royces said, I will never race one again. They're terrible. They're pigs to strip. They're pigs to keep going for the track. Just the whole nature of them. Like, you take a wishbone off one, try and put it onto another one, and it won't fit. Because, I mean, just the whole hand-built nature of the car means the parts compatibility isn't that good. But, I mean, if you look at the photograph that we put up on the cage page, and fair enough, it's been a nice bit of signwriting applied to it. And obviously, it's the alloy Jag wheels, because the steel wire wheels probably worth too much money to race. You get good money for them as opposed to just wrecking them. But, I mean, you can see the amount of rust on the car. You can see the amount of patch welding he's had to do to hold the thing together. I'm sure there was a stage where E-Type Jags were thirsty, rusty, unwanted, unloved. Nobody wanted them. So,
well, it's not the point. The only bits is taken out onto a banger track are the bits that could never be seen back on the road again without spending 8, 9, 10 times worth what they're worth to restore anyway.
Oh, exactly. But the thing as well, I think the curious thing now, I know a lot of us, myself included, have secretly wanted to see an E-Type race, so here's our chance. But I mean, it is the best track for it, because I've seen Jags going around Hednesford before with the 4.2s, particularly the pre-68s, the Mark 10s, the DS420 Airs. They literally fly around the track. So I would hope that he gets a few laps. He might even be let out on his own for a few laps.
Also
do a non-contact Jag race.
Given the meeting it is, I'm almost certain. Obviously, I don't know for certain, but it will be probably nudge and spin on the heats, given the meeting it's going out to race at. Perfect meeting for it to go out at, because it'll be there near some similar stuff. Is it in the same way the Undercracker and the 3 litre Tongan Classic?
Yeah.
The veterans meeting is always run like that.
No, that's what I was just about to say, James. Actually, I think this is the perfect meeting for a car of its type. An absolute classic, really. So yeah, it'll be really good to see it go around, have a few laps in the heats, and then maybe even when we get later into the day, we'll see how strong it is in the DD. But for one, it's certainly going to be a controversial car, to say the least, I think, when it finally gets raced in a couple of weeks. And I'm sure it'll have a lot of the classic car enthusiasts up in arms. But as we've just said, the restoration of the car to get it back roadworthy would cost far, far more than I think what people realise, and just the timing of it as well would just be absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah, exactly.
So
if the shell, if the shell wasn't going out,
it's probably better for it to end up at the track.
If the shell wasn't going out at Hednesford, that shell is sitting nowhere and will crumble. It'll oxide to pieces before anything else ever happens to it.
That's it. Well, I mean, funny enough, it probably still won't be regarded as car of the year. I think Mr. Grumpy James Dillon's in the lead at the moment. That with his Lincoln Zephyr. But we seem to enjoy it for some strange reason. Last time, James has picked a game to play. So before we come to the fixtures list, which again is quite long, James, you have a fun game for us to play.
Yeah, well, it's not like a proper quiz. You're not pitted against each other this time. Basically, after watching a bit of Richard Osman's House of Games and listening to another podcast, The Football Ramble, they've got this game where there's two separate clues and somehow they mush together and they fit together somehow. So if the two clues were multiple time banger champion who's the leader of the Midnight Runners, the answer would be Boxer Jack. And if I said to you Team Black Racer, regarded by a lot as the greatest of all time, the answer would be
Jack Overy.
And if you mush them together,
Boxer Jack Overy.
Yeah, so that's all you have to do. So you can work them out and shout them out together. There's only 4. We're not going to be here for ages. Okay, so the first one is right. Okay, the oldest Reynolds son is the first clue, and the promotion run by Steve Reese.
I got it. Star. So Jack Star and Star Treks.
Yep.
Yeah.
You rush them together. You've got
Jack Star Treks.
Yep. There you go. Okay. Second one. The North versus South Banger battle, and the banger track closely associated with our friends at Northern Bangers.
I've got that one as Civil War.
Civil Warton.
Civil Warton. Okay. Yeah. There we go. Third one. Banger Driver 400, and the track that hosts the Brisker F1 European Championship.
Kings Northampton.
Yeah, Lee Kings Northampton. And the last one, Back to Basic Banger Driver 92, also known as Saturday Boy, and the flag that is used for oil and debris on the track.
Jake White Blue Spot.
Yeah, Jake White Blue Spot. Told you, just a quick little game. We've been throwing these back and forth. We might put some out on the Cage Facebook to see who gets the first as well. Massive thanks to Liam and Sarah as well, who's been coming up with loads of these. Actually, they've actually been a nice little fun game we've been throwing back and forth. So yeah, thank you everyone.
I think we'll stick with the quiz next time.
Yeah, it wasn't a time for the quiz. It was just more throwing them out there.
It wasn't as bad as I was thinking it was going to be. I thought I'd be completely stumped there now at one stage, so it could be worse. But we'll end out our podcast dealing with the fixtures now. Obviously, check before travelling, because some of these dates have been changed at short notice, or you might have to pre-book tickets as well. Well, let's start. Let me see. Coming out this Saturday, 12th of June, Cowdenbeath, you've Michael Banger's Scottish Supreme. Ringwood, as previously mentioned, All-Granada Bangers. Then on the Sunday, Buxton, Michael Bangers BBA English Championship. At Dover, you have Big Van Bangers. Hednesford again, we discussed it earlier on, you've Unlimited Bangers, BWS Round 2. At Yarmouth, you've Back to Basics. Then during the week, on the 23rd, actually, I'm getting the dates mixed up a little bit here. On the Sunday at Wharton, the 1600cc Bangers West Coast Classics. Now, I know for a fact at Wharton, it is pre-book, so check before travelling. The following weekend, the Saturday at King's Lynn, you have Micro 1500cc and 2 litre Bangers. At Milton Hall, Back to Basics. At Outsole End, where we discussed a few weeks back, Micro Bangers Team Super League. That Lochgelly of Big Van Bangers Sean Moss Memorial. At Angerming, a track which is interesting to say the least, you have 1800cc Bangers. And at Aldershot, you have Back to Basics Fossil Frenzy for the slightly more senior drivers. You basically have to be my age and older, which is 40. Don't want to say it too loudly. And then at Stan Lake, you have 2 litre Bangers. Stansted Micro Banger teams. And then another big meeting coming with Skegness, which is the pre-90 unlimited teams of Micro Bangers. And then at Warrington in Belgium, you have the Unlimited Bangers Paul Lacey Memorial. Just checking here anymore. No, and then the following week, the 23rd, which I think is, I pull up the calendar here, get the day right at least. It's a Wednesday meeting. You've Netherbridge, which is Micro Bangers. Obviously, as I said before, we'll say it again, check before travelling. Some tracks you must pre-book the tickets before you go. There will be no ticket sales on the gate, so there's no point in going, making a long journey to be turned away. But that'll be it for this evening, I think, with episode 58. And more to close on, guys, or shall we just wrap it up?
I've got nothing to add.
Yeah, so I think we might have missed it in terms of Speed Weekend being postponed. I know that
Yeah, news just in actually. Yeah, so that was only announced today.
Yeah, so announced today. Speed Weekend has been postponed. No new date has been announced yet. Obviously, it's hopeful it will be within this season. I know it's not a massive banger event, but the national bangers will be there, and it's basically a festival for a lot of people involved with the sport that would want to be there. It has unfortunately had to be postponed. Reading the reasons, of course, it's probably the right decision. We've gone through. I don't think there's another decision that could be made. You want Ipswich full for that, and it's been postponed. So check Speedworth for more information.
Yeah, well, like you said, we're making progress now through this period of immense interest and fun. I'm not going to go too ranty about it, but we're still not quite out of the woods yet. We're getting there. An awful lot of people have been vaccinated. Not me personally yet, but the time will come. I've applied for it, so all these vaccines and all that. It's obviously it's been done for a reason. So if it makes life better, and again, go back to the way it was, we're all for it. But nothing else I need to say. We're time to wrap up here. Thank you very much for tuning in to episode 58 of Cage Full Throttle. It leaves me to say thank you very much to our producer for the evening, James Keane.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Jordan, and thanks to everyone listening.
And thank you indeed to Jordan Hollins, who's off this weekend to the real beat of the best, which is Bertino's British Touring Cars, I believe.
Yes, Ed, thank you everyone for listening and tuning in. I'll be at Snetterton this weekend, so unfortunately no Ringwood for me. But British Touring Cars are back with a crowd, so let's all get behind it.
Indeed, that's all we can do, isn't it? I've been Ed Fahey. Thank you very much for listening to Cage Full Throttle, and we will see you again soon.